Hi, I'm Iona, Assistant Director at the Marble Falls Public Library, and you're listening to Book, Line, and Sinker, a podcast from the staff here at the Marble Falls Public Library. This podcast is all about reading, books, movies, and other topics related to the public library. We're really excited to share our thoughts with you, and we hope you enjoy the show. Hey listeners, we're on episode 9. I'm really excited for our topic today. We're going to be talking about movies and TV that has been adapted from books. I have some fan favorites here. We have Brittany and Misty with me today.
I like to think that we're the favorites.
I was going to say,
I want to say, yeah, we're going to say fan favorites. So we're going to start off with a game, and y'all have no idea what it is.
Oh boy.
But basically, I'm going to read the first line of the classic novel, and y'all have to guess which novel it's from.
Oh, I failed already.
Okay.
Do y'all want
Here
me
we
to keep
go.
score? Because I can.
I mean, you
or
can.
y'all
I
can
don't
just
know if
blurt it
anyone's
out.
gonna win.
I know.
But
I think some
I'm
of
going to keep
these,
score until you see right.
I'm going to say I have like one hard one, but I feel like the rest are, you might get it. So do y'all want me to start off with the, like, go easy to hardest or just random?
just go for it.
Okay. So the first one. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife.
Is that something with Jane Austen? Is that Pride and Prejudice?
Yes. Okay. See? Okay, number 2. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4.
Harry Potter.
Okay, great. Okay, now I'm going to do hard ones.
Okay. Now you can keep score because I'm winning.
One more.
Oh, yeah. The winner wants to keep score now. Okay, so all happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. I would give half credit for the author of this. Or the title.
I have absolutely no
Yeah,
idea. I feel like I should know this though.
Because we're talking about movies, I'm going to give a movie
Give a
hint.
hint.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
What's her name that plays in Pride and Prejudice? Who plays Elizabeth? Keira Knightley?
Keira
Oh,
Knightley.
She
yeah.
also plays in this movie.
Is it
/
Anna
book.
Karenina?
Yeah.
Good guess.
I've never even read that book.
Also, I'm pretty
unfortunately.
sure like all of these books have been made into movies, so
Okay.
it kind of goes with the theme today. It was a pleasure to burn. Misty, you've recently watched this movie.
Pleasure to burn. Whoa. Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah! I was like, I know you've watched that movie. Okay, this is one that I recently had a trivia and I was so right on it. Call Me Ishmael.
Moby Dick.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
That won me trivia night.
Awesome.
That's
Getting that
amazing.
question, I was super pumped. Okay, I have a couple more. You better not never tell nobody but God. The title has a color in it.
Oh, the color purple.
Yes.
I
I was about to say Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah Winfrey. That's the answer for
I
everything.
have never read that book. Nope.
Have you watched the movie?
Mm-mm.
You need to
Nope.
at least watch the movie since we're talking about movies today.
I've heard
Okay.
it's super sad, so I've avoided it.
We'll do one more. This was kind of recently made into a movie. Not in the past year, but past few years. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had.
Oh. It sounds like a really good book.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh. Oh.
Aviator? Did you like
Is it The
that?
Great Gatsby?
Yes!
Oh my
Aviator?
Sure, is that a book?
Yeah, I bet it is.
Okay.
Oh
So
my
I honestly didn't keep score. But
That
I'm
was
pretty sure
completely
Brittany won
That
that.
was awesome. My brain is
Oh
not
my
working.
gosh.
All right, so let's get into the topic today. We are talking about movies and TV. And I feel like I have like the best people on the podcast for that because we always talk about different TV shows and movies that have been adapted from books, which is kind of most these days, if you think about it. So I want to ask, do you prefer when books are made into movies or television?
I like television. I'm gonna go with television. I like
Sorry,
it.
I'm chugging down coffee.
Brittany has lots of coffee, so by the end of this podcast, if she's like talking a lot,
You'll know. You know
at the
I've done.
beginning, she was chugging.
Finished everything.
I like television because of the series. So I feel like most of them that are adapted from books to television are series, and I like series.
I totally agree on that. And I feel like with television, you get a lot more of the books put into it because you have a lot more time that you get on screen, because with a movie, it's usually kind of a max of like 2.5 hours. But with a TV series, especially if you're doing a book series, you can kind of stay pretty true to everything, and that's been proven with like things like Game of Thrones and things like that have been able to stay really close to the book because they have all that extra time to take to go into more detail. So I really enjoy that. But I found that movies sometimes, I don't know, I feel like TV gets it right a little bit more than movies. Of course, there are always exceptions, but
How do y'all feel about TV shows that like go beyond the book? Like, for example, Game of Thrones
Or Big
and
Little Lies.
Big Little Lies, that have just expanded the book further into its timeline, even though
I'm on the fence.
whether
with
it
that.
hasn't been published or there's just not a sequel.
specifically with Game of Thrones, I think it's a good thing just because it's taking forever for George R.R. Martin to get your book. George R.R. Martin, if you're listening to this, you need to hurry up.
Stat.
But we've been waiting for such a long time that I don't even know if we're going to get that last book. So they kind of had to push it, otherwise they couldn't finish the series.
And they would have had a lot of unhappy people.
Oh my goodness,
So they
there
had
would
to
have been
do that.
riots in the streets.
But
He does some consulting on that, which is like why I'm okay with that. But Big Little Lies, I don't know how I feel about that. Leanne Moriarty, Big Little Lies, if you haven't read it, they did a first season on HBO where they covered the book, and they're about to make a second season, but they're going beyond the book.
Yeah, because that first book, Big Little Lies, finishes. It is just done. You cannot go anywhere from there, but the producers decided to go somewhere from there. Same goes with 13 Reasons Why.
I was actually about to bring that
You
up.
know?
It's
How are
extremely controversial TV show, first of all.
That was a book?
Jay Asher, by the way.
It was a YA book. And
Okay.
so the first season went through all of the topics that the book covers, and the second season is like completely off the grid. Like there's no source material. They just kind of made everything up. And if I'm being honest, I like the first season a lot more than I did the second. And that might have been just because they explored even more controversial topics, and if I'm being honest, it was very hard to watch. So I definitely don't recommend that for anyone under 17 because it is very
super
hard to
controversial.
watch.
I don't think I've seen that.
Well, the author is Jay Asher, and that has been a best-selling book top, for a long time, and I was surprised when they did it into a TV series because of the controversy.
Oh yeah.
Because you're going to get the young kids watching that, and that is a tough subject because it deals with suicide.
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast
Yeah.
on that. There's so
I'm
many
just going to
different
say a disclaimer that
things
this
on
podcast is going to be longer than normal, so we're giving you probably an extra 15 minutes because we love talking about TV
Yes.
and books. Do y'all think it's important to read the book first?
Absolutely. That's just my opinion. I want somebody to read it first, and I want them to picture the characters. I want them to kind of cast the actors and set the scene themselves. I'm a huge person, a huge advocate of imagination, which is why I love dealing with kids so much, because I want you to imagine it. I want you to know that if they say that it's a yellow house, that it can be any shade of yellow that you want. So I recommend that because you're creating that, you're setting the scene. Even though the author lays it out for you, you go over and beyond, in my opinion.
See, I'm kind of on the fence about this topic, and I've been thinking about this all week because there are so many pros and cons to reading the book first, and I feel like it depends on how good the adaptation is, which is really hard to tell until you've actually seen it or heard something from someone that's already seen it. But The pros to that is, of course, I definitely say read the book, whether you read it first or after you see the adaptation, but something that I've kind of noticed is a lot of adaptations you kind of have to go into the movie having it as kind of in your mind a separate entity from the book. Otherwise, sometimes you're going to be disappointed with it.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do because you've already read the source material and you're like, oh, well, this should be this way, and this character has changed this role and everything. So I guess it just depends on how well the adaptation is actually put into the work. But I definitely say go ahead and read the book regardless of what order you read it. With the book, you're always going to get a little bit more detail, so you're going to get more motivation into what the characters are thinking and what kind of actions they have and everything. So I think it's really regardless. It's kind of a personal preference.
It's kind of good.
Yeah.
Good point.
I would have said probably 15, 20 years ago, I might have said, yeah, read the book first. But I feel like so much content is being pulled from novels and memoirs these days that it's impossible to keep up. So I want people to, especially if they like are interested in that genre, that topic, they should read the book first. But lately I've seen so many movies where I'm like, that was good, and then I learned it's from a book, and so I read the book after. It's actually
and you
made
really
me read,
enjoy it.
yeah, but it's made me read more almost because I'm like, oh well, if I love this movie, I might really love the book.
I like it that we're
Or I love this
discussing it
TV show.
because y'all put it in a different way than I would normally think about it. So you put a different spin, because the way I'm thinking is you're kind of setting yourself up for failure in a way, because you're going to sit there and criticize it the whole time. And when preparing for this podcast, I was thinking about that, walking through our stacks. Being a librarian and having this topic is difficult because you walk through, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Of my notes are an entire page of books that are pulled and turned into movies. I mean, you look at that,
it's insane. And I always want people to read, but at this point, I feel like the majority of TV and film is starting to be pulled from books, which is great because that's like a great thing for authors. That means books are popular enough. And so I always want people to read, but it is just hard to consume that much.
It's a lot. And I think they're pulling from that source material because, if I'm being honest, filmmakers and writers are kind of running out of original concepts, and a lot of the time,
right there.
a lot of the work is already done for them. So as long as they consult with an author that actually wrote the book, sometimes it turns out pretty well.
So we don't have to go too far into this, but do y'all think in the future authors are going to at least be a major part of the collaboration process with like screenwriters and television writers?
I hope so.
Are those going to blend, do you think?
I saw a percentage the other day. I can't remember from where, but it said something like right now, like 53% of the box office is dominated by book adaptations into television.
That's
movies.
a big number. When you think
It's
about
a very big number, and they're becoming so popular that I would say it would probably have to be a trend.
I would almost want it to be that way, because I sometimes feel like the author's vision is way better than when the screenwriter gets a hold of it and the director, because I wish I never would have read Ready Player One. I wanted to walk out of the theater.
Yeah, it's really difficult to turn a character's internal dialogue outward, because with movies and TV, you have to almost they have to speak it to make it the situation real, where in books you can just talk about the environment and things, and we get it, but with visual it has to be dialogue driven, which I think makes a lot of the adaptation hard, especially if they don't have the author's vision in mind when they're doing it. So moving on, what are some good adaptations you've seen lately? Or seen in
I'm
general?
going to start with a children's book. Ferdinand was great. I was so happy with that adaptation because I love the book, Ferdinand the Bull, in case anybody wants to look that up. It's a children's book. It's a timeless classic, and they did a great job on the kids' movie. But I also really, really liked Me Plus You.
Me Plus You.
Hold on. Did I just
Oh,
call
Me
Is that
Before
the
You.
JoJo?
Me before? No, is it Me Before You? Okay, I
That's the
totally
one.
butchered
Okay.
that. But Me
I knew
Before
where you were
You
going.
by JoJo Moyes. I love the book, and I do know the title, okay? But I love the book, and they did a great job on that. They took her little quirky personality that's in the book, and they did a great job with it in the movie.
I have a couple. I actually have another children's one to recommend. So this is my absolute favorite series of all time. It has been since I was a kid. A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket.
I was gonna ask
The one
you
with
that
Neil
one.
Patrick Harris.
It's so good.
Yeah,
Like
I do
I
like that
watched
one.
all of it, and I think it's good for all ages. It's such. With the books, you get that blend of quirkiness and fun, but you also have some of, like the tragedy because, they're orphans and they've lost their parents and everything. But I think that really translated well onto the screen. Originally, in the early 2000s, they made a movie adaptation out of it with Jim Carrey.
I remember that
which
one.
I actually really enjoyed just because Jim Carrey's hilarious, I think. But I think with this one, because it was a TV series, they got so much more time to go in depth with the characters and they were able to show so many different sets that you see in the book that you didn't get to see in the movie. And Neil Patrick Harris does an amazing job.
Yeah, I can't decide if I love or hate Count Olaf. I really can't.
It's
And
hard.
yeah, I did love those books growing up. And I haven't watched all the series, but I started it and I enjoyed it. So one of my favorite adaptation actually doesn't stick to the book a whole... It sticks to the book spirit, but there are some major twists, but I was okay with it because I feel like they're separate, but Silver Linings Playbook. The book by Matthew Quick, I absolutely loved. And when the movie came out, it had a great cast. Robert De Niro, Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence, amazing. And there were some pretty significant changes, which I always like to point out when we're watching it, but I still love the movie. I thought it was great.
It's a great movie.
Oh my gosh.
I haven't read the book, but it was a really, really good movie.
Yeah, the book is amazing. It's even better than the movie, and I thought that was one of the best movies to come out in a while. But I mean, I am an Eagles fan, and I also love gambling, so I really connected with Robert De Niro in that movie. Another one, I think Stephen King movies, adaptations are always really good, and the new It, I mean, The Shining, of course, was amazing. But the new It movie, I thought
Misty's already gone down.
I thought that was such a good adaptation.
I will take your word for it.
I haven't been able to see it yet, but I'm really excited for it.
It was fun. Great cast. The kids are just absolutely hilarious.
And they got the little boy from Stranger Things, who is
Yeah.
just such a good actor.
Yeah.
And he's so young, so it's
That's
it's
creepy,
great.
even
He's gonna
worse.
go places.
So the younger Skarsgård plays Pennywise, the clown. He's really good. I love, what was it, Tim Curry? That played the original
Tim
one?
Curry.
I
yeah.
love him. Oh my gosh, do I love him.
Mhm.
But the Skarsgård kid was way better, in my opinion. It was great.
I think his name is Bill. I actually watched a different. I saw him in a Netflix original series. It's called Hemlock Grove.
Hemlock
I
Grove.
absolutely adore that show. Oh
I
my
like
gosh.
that show a lot. Is that's a book though, right?
It is a book. I actually have it at home. I haven't finished it, but they went away from a lot of the source material on that.
You've also read you've read the Sookie Stackhouse too, haven't you?
Yes.
So that's another adaptation.
Charlene Harris.
They took the True Blood. Now they went off script on that one.
Yeah, I would say if you've read Charlene Harris and you love her, maybe not go into the TV show. They're older. I think they're great, separate, but yeah, it's very different. So have y'all seen a movie or a TV show that you thought was better than the book?
I actually have one, and I don't know, this may be controversial or whatever, but The Maze Runner.
Okay.
So I actually like the movies better than the books, and I'll tell you why. In the books, everything is kind of a matter of a fact, basic adventure story. This happened, then this happened, then this happened. And I wasn't really able to connect with any of the characters, and it wasn't really exciting. But then I went and saw the movies, and all three, they were super intense. I cared about the characters. They had great dialogue, and I thought those were better than the book. I really enjoyed those.
Mine is going to be Girl on a Train. That was a good movie. It was all right. The book was horrible. I hated it. I wanted to throw. I did not understand. The last name is Hawkins. I think it's
Paula
Paula Hawkins. I did not see what the big thing was about this one. Another one for me is Poldark. I only read the first Poldark. It was difficult for me to follow. The language, of course, it's set in, I believe, the 1600s. The language is very different, so it was hard to understand, but they did a really good job with the TV series. Loved it. Another one is Outlander. I did not care for the books.
Really?
Nope, did not.
Have you listened to the books, though?
I have not listened.
Listen to the books.
I've read them, and they're okay. I think that there's an overabundance of description in them. They're very descriptive. To me, I think it could have been cut down a lot. It is a good story. And the TV series is better, in my opinion.
So I have one that stands out, and it's Jurassic Park. And I love Michael Crichton, but with the music in Jurassic Park, like the original one, I love the new ones too, but just the very first one just really brings everything to life. And then there's that Velociraptor scene when they're in the
my
kitchen,
gosh.
and
So
the
good.
Velociraptors
So
are that is one of the best movie scenes in history for me personally. It's so scary. It's and you he moves and you hear when he accidentally moves a spoon and it hits the thing, and that the sound
the sound that the raptors make.
Yes,
that is haunting.
That
so good.
That scene is just so scary and just brilliant, and a book cannot recreate that for me. I think the sound alone is why I think I love it better than the book. And I really enjoyed the book. Growing up, I read all of his books. I just absolutely loved them. But Jurassic Park is just one that stands out as a movie.
I tend to agree with you on that. I read the book a couple of years ago, and it added a little bit of extra layer on there, but it wasn't nearly as exciting. And I think something that I really enjoyed about the movies is when you see the Brontosaurus for the first time, the long neck, and that movie Crescendo, it kicks in, and you're in awe. It's just amazing.
I've noticed with all this new Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, there are kids even coming in reading Michael Crichton.
I read it as a kid. I don't remember there being anything super inappropriate in it, but my parents were totally okay with
just
it.
The language is what I've been told, is that there's a couple of words which I'm sure when you're seeing a dinosaur for the first time.
How
you're
do
gonna
you
use some
express that?
expletives.
How do you express that fear on your face?
Brittany,
You drop an F-bomb.
Miss Peregrine. What'd you feel about that? Because that was one I wanted to talk about.
Here we go.
We love the books.
Yes, so that entire book series is absolutely fantastic. Here's my opinion on the movie that they made. They made it, I believe it was last year. I like the movie as an individual piece. Except when it gets to the last couple scenes. They kind of got ridiculous, where they're in the little coastal carnival park and they start, fighting and everything. It's just too much. I enjoyed it. Series is way, way, way better.
We're talking about Miss Peregrine's Ransom Rigs. If anybody has ever read it, I think that the movie is not as good because the book is amazing.
Honestly,
the series.
I would love to hear my mom's opinion. Mom, if you're listening to this, please let me know your opinion on this, because she's the one who introduced me to those books, and I liked the movie. And if you have any comments on anything we're saying, go to our podcast page on our website, and there's a comment box.
Yes. Or come talk to us.
Yeah.
We will talk.
There's a comment box if you want to remain anonymous, and we'll include you in our conversation. But I really, Mom, let me know. So, to end the kind of movie TV podcast, what are some upcoming movies or television shows that you're excited for?
Discovery of Witches. Thank you, Iona, for getting me started on this. They're making a TV series with Discovery.
Wonderful.
It's a TV? I thought it was a movie.
Nope.
Okay, so I almost wish you would have dropped this to me on the podcast so that our listeners could hear my just super excited reaction. I love this book so much. It's a Discovery of Witches. It's a 3-part series, and then she's about to come out with a 4th one, but it's not connected to the same. It's in the same world, It's Marcus and Phoebe.
Okay.
It comes out in September or October. Anyways, by Deborah Harkness.
I love The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, World War II time period. Fantastic book, tearjerker, fantastic writing. They better do it justice. That's all I gotta say.
My staff recommendation this month was Crazy Rich Asians, and the movie comes
I saw
out
that.
in like a couple
I'm
weeks.
excited for that.
So excited. Constant Wu plays the main lead female character, and I'm just like so pumped. Last night I went and saw Mamma Mia 2, and the trailer was like one of the first ones, and I was just like screaming. I was like, yes! Constant Wu plays in Fresh Off the Boat. It's an ABC series. Great. Oh my gosh, love it. So that's one that I'm most excited about, but now I'm excited about Discovery of Witches. They're also coming out with a movie on, I think it's a movie, on They Have Always Lived in a Castle by Shirley Jackson. Shirley Jackson writes The House on Haunted Hill. She's kind of like a horror. Agatha Christie is what I would compare her to.
You lost me at scary. I got you.
Yeah.
I believe you.
I'm real into horror adaptations of books. I love it.
Everyone's gonna laugh at me, but I'm excited because they're making a new adaptation of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And Benedict Cumberbatch is voicing the Grinch, and I'm so excited about it.
He is the Grinch because it's a live
It's
one, isn't it?
so good. No, it's an animated one.
Okay, that's right.
And he's
Because his
voicing
voice
it.
is perfect. Perfect for the Grinch.
All right, so we're going to wrap up. Thank y'all for sticking with us while we fangirled over our favorite books and movies. Next week, Mary and I are going to be talking about romance novels. For those of y'all that love the romance genre or that love it and don't admit it, tune in next Thursday.
Closet
and
romancers.
thank y'all for coming.
It's anonymous listening. So